Good morning. Happy Advent. It has come upon us once again. This is our annual Advent music and poetry event. We have 3 of them this year. And as you can see, we're in here today because we're featuring the poet and the organ. The next 2 Advent and music and poetries will be in the chapel. And you'll want to, if you haven't picked up a slip about what's coming up, I'll just give you a brief overview. Next week is Rachel Carter Murphy, and accompanied by violinist Shasha, and I will not pronounce her last name, and myself. And then the last one is with Sean and Mike Talismatic. You might have remembered him from last year. He is our jazz pianist that we have become acquainted with. He will be here to accompany Sean's poetry. A couple of things I want to also remind you of is that there's something very special happening this weekend. Concert, yes, the sounds of Christmas. So that will be at 7 o'clock Sunday. Hope to see you all there. So let's talk about today. I am very happy and proud of the person I get to work with through the week. He has been my lifesaver this past year. And I don't think probably 2 years ago, he probably thought he was going to be doing this for so long. And when he volunteered to help me, I don't think he thought it was going to be this long. But Logan Kohler is going to be playing the organ today, especially Christmas, get us in the Christmas spirit. If you don't know Logan, he is a Florida State trooper. That's his full-time job, and he's living like right now on 45 minutes of sleep because he works night shift. So Logan, come on up here to the organ. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sean to let you do the biography of Sarah today, okay?
I am not proud. I love those, those 2 things. So here we are again. It's so wonderful. I just can't believe that that it's back to our concerts. I just adore this whole thing, and so I want to introduce. I grabbed the wrong thing, Sarah, but I'll just use your book. Sarah is from Gainesville, and we actually met last night for the very first time, although we've had many conversations. The poetry world is interesting. It's sort of small and big at the same time, and you may be friends with somebody for 10 or 20 years before you ever meet them in person, and I have many instances of that. But Sarah, she's from Gainesville. She just retired from the vet school of medicine. Veterinary medicine. Yeah, not the vet. I see what you mean. The veterinary school of medicine. And you were in an administrative role, correct, or communications. And she's a journalist, and she's been doing that much of her adult professional life. But she started, she was at FSU, took a master's degree in English, and so she's been interested in poetry a long time, and it's reflected in her writing. She recently asked me to blurb her next book, Bloodstream. I need lots of correcting today. And it's fabulous. And so anyway, a few particulars. I think I just actually told you some. She was at Duke and then FSU. and received her master's degree in English. Her work has appeared in numerous journals, including Gulf Coast, 5 Points, Rattle, Florida Review, Atlanta Review, and elsewhere. And this is her first book, The Grief Committee Minutes, which is, in fact, her poetry has a lot to do with the Gainesville area. And she's brought some copies in case you might like one when everything's over. But why don't you come up? I'm not going to talk about you anymore. I'm going to let you do it.
Hi. I just want to say I'm overjoyed to be here for so many reasons, and one of which is it's just such a beautiful church, and my dad was ordained in the United Church many years ago. And while I don't go to church as regularly as I probably should in Gainesville, the church that I attend when I go is the United Church of Gainesville, and so it's just a beautiful facility. And I'm also so honored to have been invited to be here with y'all. Sean, thank you for the wonderful introduction and just for being such a good friend and supporter. And so I'll probably read 12 or 13 poems today. And Sean told you a little bit about my writing. I'll be reading a mix of poems today with themes that I thought related in some way to Advent, and the spirit of hopefulness. I'll also be reading some poems about my parents, both of whom are no longer with us, but both of them loved Christmas and the Christmas season. And so I have a few poems that relate to them in one way or another. And I do write often, as Sean mentioned, about loss and grief, familial loss, but also environmental loss. I do write a lot about old Florida. I grew up in Florida, in Tallahassee mostly. But also, I was born in North Carolina, grew up in Florida, and I look around and see a very different Florida than I grew up in. And so, but at any rate, on that note, I'm going to get started. My first poem is called Threshold. Threshold. From one perspective, a rocker and a swing shift. From another, stillness uncovered. The tableau takes me back. We knew no one with a screen lanai. Wrap around, a past and a future wide open, and the air, pine on the wind, a sacred scent like petrichor or wreaths we hung on our front doors at Christmas, full of the season. Listen, there will always be gossip. Your name, mine, the neighbor's, the soul whose obit noticed he was happiest in nature, casting lures from a kayak off any Florida key, stargazing, or on his front porch swing, a thing we relate to even as we wonder when our time will come. A good portico moves us to prepare a house within to weather the sins of a broken world. Listen, we are all a blend of stories handed down by prophets, palm readers, poets. We absorb Isaiah's Messiah prophecy in theory, miracles like Peter and John healing a lame man on Solomon's porch. Glide between belief and qualm until the rising and the falling light recalls our lost beloveds, and we weep at them waiting for us on the near or the far horizon. Or is it the undulating live oak trees we see? We sweep untreated floorboards, cobwebs from our rafters, step out of time, cross over into a field of endless sow and reap. Listen, hope is coming. Evidence. Her last night as a breathing entity, my mother scurs into sky like a flock of seabirds startled from shellfish by a dog. Signs of distress, they said, but we weren't there to testify. Instead, imagine this, a lift of wings, of wheeling gulls, and there's that ship we read of in the poem, leaving shore, a spread of white sails shrinking into the blue pelagic, as another vision greets the vessel warmly from the other side, beyond what anyone who waved goodbye could see or hear in the sea's sue. But when my feet find sand soft enough to sink in at high tide this bitter morning after a record freeze, I level up, keep going. Watch my step, then spot a cloven hoof. No, 4, no, 8, no. Even more upside down hearts, tracking north, a running herd of deer. Below a crescent moon or breaking dawn, a sprint from a known preserve to a protected park, we speculate. Across the towered condos, gated surfside neighborhoods, past gutted dunes, depressed amid the human prints, dog paw impressions, something urgent, something new to follow, wait for, believe, something wild. Avian inventory. Nothing on the planet is faster than the peregrine falcon diving for prey at speeds where lungs by rights should burst, but theirs survive thanks to a bony bump in the nose, disrupting airflow, says the guide, from a lookout as I squinted hope but missed the flight. Imagine the world's most widespread raptor, the wing my life careens to on its close. As I inventory sightings overlooked, a flock of swallowtail kites foraging in the lowlands, a whooping crane stooping for grubs in a prairie, crooked grace, red-faced outlier among silvery sandhills where I dreamt the thrill of being first in my reporting, but lived for rapture others left in logs. The point is vanishing, an empty sky where my head spins, full of the missing, never seen or to be seen again, until one late May day, a black silhouette against white feather slices my field of vision, draws my eyes high above the building corners, and where I'd given up on dancing, in the span of seconds and eternity, a single swallowtail glides. Wrapping the holiday gifts. Months prior to the party, the clinquant tree, my love and I stocked the closet. Sacks within sacks, like nesting dolls, piled high with tissue, each bag labeled child by grandchild by parent by order. Is it enough, we ask, or are we too much in our wanting to please? The young, with our myriad manner of magic maquillage, or plastic action figure we heard was the rage, or the children we gambled we knew. Juxtaposed are safe bets, memory foam slippers for the mothers, fleece pullovers for the men, fancy pens, or a set of oils for our budding creatives. Above the fireplace, stockings stuffed full of fruit, foiled candies, tuna treats for a family cat. Progress, we nod and keep going, underside of the wrapping flat, topping the bed or the rug we rolled on, paper cut to more than cover, corners high and wide, taped over ends of angel bands, their instruments of hope, or prints of sparkling star, snowflake, collapsed to triangles, the way worlds shrink to trinkets, memories condense to whatever the hand can hold. Proof. There's a quote from Paul Tillich included at the beginning of this poem. I'm going to go ahead and read it. The basic anxiety, the anxiety of a finite being about the threat of non-being, cannot be eliminated. It belongs to existence itself. You have to come to faith on your own, I'd said, that you could believe anything as long as you commit to witness. When the white-tailed doe strolled into our enclave before the rain, drawn where roots send sugars up, sweet sweep of green in spring to what remains of old growth in a region recently clear-cut, I imagined anthropomorphically that we were its curiosities, as if something in us were capable of saving. I told you the past is more than a remembering, a resurrection of guilt, or an endless mourning for all the answers never given or come too late to believe, for what we never asked. I said, trust me. I am one who lies at times, it's true, not about what matters. Lies like, no, I didn't see you when I really did. Or yes, it's fine with me if the only chapels you'll set foot in anymore are woods. When we saw the doe together, see us watching freeze, we sensed its fear of being seen, of being, non-being, out of place, of time. Then we saw it beeline for the asphalt curling around our cul-de-sac, the devil it didn't know, and bolt, leap hedges, trample landscaping to escape until a pathway opened to a clearing somehow I knew it would find. All that's left now is its imprint on my mind. Then I said, now do you believe me? A pileated woodpecker shares where to find God. I live for what the dead give. Hidden by leaf screens and branches, I pillage rotten wood. My tribe fought long for salvation after the forest's razing, dug into ragged swamps, felled trunks, a miracle of wholeness from fragments, a feast of insects who thrive on decay. What's left when I leave is for others to say. Should you see my black wings and red head knocking wood for nourishment, you might ask if I believe God is dead. As Altizer said, that God lived and died in Christ, that the church lied about becoming the body. But what Altizer said was not what most thought he meant. He really meant, in death, life. A spirit indwelling to drill the dying down. Incarnate carnage, God's passion. If you ask me, I'm proof he was right. If you listen to my rat-a-tat melody echoing my drumming beak, you may hear an answered prayer of oneness in desire's shrill tattoo and the thrumming of your own wild heart. This is a hurricane poem. I thought you guys might relate to that. All of us Floridians can relate. What's left of us is shaken. We know the drill. Plywood cut to sills to cover glass. Bolted, battened down to face the worst winds of a decade. Supercells spun inland from the sea. Each hurricane worse than the last. Shock of debris, browned brush, decapitated palms planted by a flock of deniers. What's left of them, of us, is shaken, wonders, why rebuild? We'll come back. It could have been worse. Some of those blacked out for days made do with candlelight. Others discovered how much brighter the stars appeared in the darker nights. Daylight savings. In the lidded hour, in the usual dark, I rise to imagine the moon alongside still visible stars. Outside my downward slanted blinds, night sounds, barred owl, cricket, peeper. Just a few more minutes, I tell God, as if praying the names of the dead might spring their lost time forward. Those who weathered Midwestern winters, blood zeroed out. My grandfather, for one, who stroked and died at 67, though he lived to hold me. His tiny Indiana visitor at 3, too early or too late for snow. All he did by then was smile, unaware of who would carry on or how hard the years to come would be beyond the longest days. Lives collapsed between the present and the past, the way my father came to crave his stink bug south, its musk and dusk, before his time ran out. The season changed, and our lives, like an hourglass, turned over. When time ran out, I took the clock in. Where black-arrowed hands ticked predictably for years, a house's beating heart, a still, round space. Its yellow face had faded like our tourbillon of hope against life's gravity within the silenced chimes. No wing, no prayer, a generation or a few passing in seconds. We'd long since stopped holding time like a hostage between us, ransoming the old betrayals. All we counted on to kill that elephant of remembrance, to which we finally succumb as silence fills my mother's living room like a pitcher full of need, empty of tea. In my greed to set things right, I took the clock in. Sorry for bad news, horologist said. Vintage parts are hard to find and labor lags for restoration. Gave a price that blew my mind, then offered up that it was fine to love it dead. I placed the slate-cased clock up high enough to lift my eyes, like a child to imagined angels. Speaking of God, on an island full of slash pine and palmetto, crows staccato warn of us in the canopy as my dog relieves himself and I slacken our leash while his stream interrogates the shepherd's needle. As we face the hoped-for promise of another day, along with the early purple blooms of our agapanthus, bearing their umbel inflorescence, though climate confused. I too feel out of season, beneath the red-barred breast of a low-flying hawk, light, above all, light imprinted in my every nerve, umbrella, shielding what I dream yet cannot see. Old friend, I still see signs of you in any green thing growing, grown, any clue that you might see me nestled in this life as sandhills migrate to another state, as I breathe in high pollen, your miraculous dust. See me shining, half-lit from the third-eye pineal view, waking, winded, how I burn for you. I could go on like this all day. Thank you so much, Logan. These are amazing. These perfect songs to for this reading. I have two more. An origin story. An origin story. In the cabin where I was conceived, where my great uncle let us stay, Mother organized belongings for our move, while Father, straight out of seminary, ministered as was his wont, at a school with mandatory chapel and vespers, where righteousness could be compartmentalized, although I always believe I came from some imagined justice. In this tiny southern town, where it was wise to not be too theological or overspeak, Father spoke for the students during the protests, sit-ins beginning in bigger cities not far up the road in the era of Jim Crow. Inside Mother's belly, where her blood pumped parallel to mine, feeding my veins, my heart in intervillous chambers, I drew a way of knowing from her body about the world that was and yet was yet to be. This last poem is called Survival Guide. And as you notice, I haven't been commenting a lot about the different poems, but I do want to say that I wrote this poem at a point in my life when I was worrying about everything. And I thought to myself, what good is this doing? You know, we can all worry, but it doesn't change certain things that are just out of our control. And there's enough to worry about that is out of our control that, you know, why add to it? And often the very things we worry about never come to pass. This poem is Survival Guide. The wolf never came to the door, though we imagined it howling. Somehow the lights stayed on. The Chuck Will's widow's whistle vanished from summer nights, yet still we listen at dusk and dawn for the owl's duet. Hoot, cackle, caw. Wake to imprinted cardinal, mourning dove, but also bird song we can't name, mysterious as the universe we'll never fathom, having relinquished the ghost of knowing to constellations we'll never see, to voices dreamed but never heard or heard no more. Yet too that haunting cry, air glow, the occasional river of stars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. That was lovely. Thank you, Logan. That was wonderful. You'll see that there's a little offering plate out there. We do ask for a free will offering to keep these going, so notice the little plate out there as you go. We'll be back next week in the chapel, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the week, and see you this Sunday. And thank you again to our poet, Sarah, and to our organist, Logan. Thank you very much.